Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pet Food Puzzle Guy. And today we're going to talk about nutritionists. And it's funny, I've talked about this before, and I'm always scouring the internet to find good information for you pet parents because there's so much bad information. And Dr. I'm assuming her name's Emma, like my daughter's name. She has a channel, an awesome channel called the Uh, Vet Med Corner. So Vet Med Corner, I'll put it up here. And you really need to check her out because she, all topics, all kinds of topics. But she did a kind of review on nutrition the other day. And I asked her, can I take pieces of this? Because it's so good. And it's so important for you guys. You know, I hear all the time, oh, you're just Glenn from Hills. You worked for Hills for 34 years. You're not a veterinarian. You're not a nutritionist. So what do you know? So here's a practicing veterinarian she's really sharp, really smart, and I definitely want to direct you guys to go check her out. Just like I always talk about Dr. Ray, you really want to check out Dr. M. And I'm going to share a few. I'm going to do a couple videos actually with segments from one of her videos. But this is on the topic of ingredientists, and it really is a great question. Who are you going to trust? Well, you're trusting the so-called nutritionists out there, the certified pet nutritionists, all this other stuff. Well, what the heck is that, and is it something you should get behind? And I want to read real quick, and then we'll get to it. But Midwest Yorkie, a new friend of mine, subscriber, whatever, part of the, definitely she's part of the nutrition mission now. But she wrote and she says, just curious, how is it that Dr. Judy, who is not a board certified veterinary nutritionist, can give advice that is in contrast to doctors who are? Great question. Why is it that people will trust the so-called certified pet nutritionists? We'll hear about what that really means, versus the people that really have the credentials and the research and all. It really is kind of amazing. It really comes down to, do you trust the people that are board certified nutritionists and know what they're talking about, or do you trust the social media celebrities that basically are pet food marketers? I mean, they really do. They just parrot the marketing that they get from the manufacturers that they support. And which one do you trust and why? So we're going to get into that, and I think you're going to really get a lot out of this. So if you're somebody that struggles with, well, Glenn says stuff that makes sense, but it's so different than what I hear from, Forever Dog, or from, BK Pets or whatever. And I understand that, and it's good you're hearing both sides, but you want to start using your common sense and your reasoning to decide who should I trust and who should I not trust. So here we go. Let's get started. You're going to get a lot out of this video, I'm sure.
So, the first thing to know is that the term nutritionist is not at all a protected one. What that means is that any person can call themselves a nutritionist, or a feline nutritionist, or a canine nutritionist, or a pet nutritionist. Any of those titles mean absolutely nothing. The person who is calling themselves this may have zero training, they might have outdated training, they might have non-research based training. There's no way to tell. And so if anybody is calling themselves any of those things, completely disregard whatever information they are sharing.
Okay, you've heard it from me, you've heard it from her now, okay? There there is a plethora of so-called pet nutritionists and canine nutritionists and feline nutritionists, and they're certified and they're clinical, all this other baloney. And that's all it is. It's baloney. It means nothing. I can come up with my own course, Glenn's holistic, or Glenn's clinical nutrition course, charge you guys money for it. Ed already said he'd pay me $25 if I did it, so I may do it, Ed, just for you. You could be a certified pet nutritionist, and I'll send you a cool plaque, and then you can call yourself a certified nutritionist. That's how bad it is. There are chains of stores out there, I'm not even going to mention them, that will say, well, we have trained certified nutritionists in our stores to help you. Well, guess who certified them? The store. Anybody with any credentials? Absolutely not. Just take the marketing from the different food companies that we sell in our store. We'll put together a course. You pass the test, and oop, you're certified now. That's how bad it is. So you've got to get over this. People ask me very often, "What are your credentials? Are you a vet, nutrition specialist?" Because so and so is on their channel. Please understand, it means nothing.
The only acceptable options to look for when looking for pet nutrition titles are either a board certified veterinary nutritionist or a veterinary technician who has specialized in nutrition. Both of these programs involve years and years of studying at a university level. They also require continuing education every year. They also require the individual to be involved in nutrition research, and there is a residency program that the person has to complete. And at the end of that residency, there is a notoriously difficult board exam that has to be passed in order to call yourself a veterinary nutritionist or a veterinary technician who's specialized in nutrition. The other key component about these actually trustworthy sources of pet nutrition information is that they will form a team with your veterinarian. So your GP, vet clinic, will be looped in as part of the team. Having that clinical component is crucial when discussing nutrition, as there are so many different factors that will affect the nutrition choices that are made for an individual pet. Their age, their lifestyle, their body condition score, their medical history, all of those things matter and will influence nutrition choices.
I've mentioned this before, but there are probably less than 100 board certified veterinary nutritionists in the country. Those are the credentialed people. Those are the ones doing the amazing research. They're the ones that get millions of dollars worth of research that they can do. They're the ones that come up with these incredible discoveries. And the diets out there that I saw every day as a Hills veterinary rep, I've said this before, and it's the one thing I love that I did for 34 years. Every day being in vet clinics, I would see the results of therapeutic nutrition. Now, I was responsible for Hills, but I saw Royal Canin, I saw Purina. Of course, both of them came much later. Hills was the only one for quite a while, but I saw what could come of true research and what board certified nutritionists could really do. Many of them at Hills I knew personally. I was out in Topeka, Kansas, an awful lot in the 90s, learning directly from those folks. Dr. Mark Morris Jr. I mean, it was wild, and I loved it. But that's the real science, and that's what board certified nutritionists do. Very few. I think I did a video not too long ago on this. There's less than 20 that are actually employed by Hills, Royal Canin, and Purina combined. So most board certified nutritionists are independent. They're out there doing their own research, and so board certified nutritionists, that's who you're looking for. Those are the people. They don't always aren't always in lockstep and agreeing with everything, but those are the people that you can trust, that what they've come up with and have come up with over decades. Those are the people you can trust, not somebody that's a uh, social media celebrity, even if they're a veterinarian or a retired veterinarian, and they're pushing ingredients and species appropriate, all the buzzwords from who? From marketing departments, from pet food companies. They're not talking science. They're not talking nutrition. They have no credentials. Many of the things they say, and I've reported some of those, I've shared some of them, are just blatantly wrong. They just don't know better. They don't know nutrition science at all. They rejected it a long time ago, and they're just totally out of touch. But yet they have their pseudoscience and their philosophies, and they don't even realize that's so. The only reason they have that, it's driven by the marketing departments of all these pet foods. I mean, I've watched, again, over 3 decades, I've watched the pet food industry and how the marketing just changes from this to that to this. Now we're into this newest thing, and it's all marketing. You really want to ask yourself, what are the board certified nutritionists saying? That's what really matters to the health of your pet. And it's great hearing from a real practicing veterinarian, because she brought up something that I forget to mention a lot, and it was something that I dealt with almost every day, and that's the collaboration that she talked about between the practicing veterinarian, the general practitioner, the one that's got your pet in their hands, and the nutritionist back at Hills or back at Royal Canin or Purina. Now, I can't speak for Royal Canin and Purina, but I can tell you for Hills, and I use them a lot, kind of still do a little bit, but Hills has a veterinary hotline where your veterinarian, they get it. Let's say your dog's case or your cat's case is really unique. We've got this going on, but we also have that, and then we got a little bit of this, and it's really complicated. You can't ask that general practitioner to have the answers to all those things. Many times it's a situation where they'll ask me and I'm like, hey, you know what, that's really unique, let's call Hills. And there are clinicians there, right up to board certified nutritionists, that your veterinarian can work with. They can go over your pet's history, they can look at their blood work, they can look at their urinalysis, they can look at all that stuff and come up with the best dietary recommendation for your pet. That is pretty cool, and that is totally free. That is a service that Hills provides to those veterinarians so they can provide you the very best nutrition. Because as we hear all the time from all our critics out there, critics of the big three, that veterinarians don't know anything about nutrition. Well, they sure do, as you can kind of tell from Dr. M. I wouldn't tell her she doesn't know anything about nutrition. Uh, but is she a nutritionist? No, but she's smart enough to know she has access to those people, the very people that make those diets. So that's pretty cool, and I'm glad she brought it up. And for those of you that are veterinarians, at least in America, I can't speak for other countries, but if you're not taking advantage of Hill's offer, you really want to do it. And it's not just for veterinarians. You technicians, if you get a case and you just have a really good question, or especially a client coming in and they hit you with some of the marketing confusion that they have, Hills is there to help with that and give you solid answers, science-based answers, not just marketing answers. And it is a line only for clinics to use. It's not open to the general public, and you can understand they would just get swamped. They want to be able to answer your questions right away. So it's a support for veterinarians, and you really need to take advantage of it. So good point, Dr. M. Let's keep going.
It should also be noted that a GP veterinarian like myself, as well as the accredited specialists, we will all have a very in-depth background that covers how to read research papers, what sort of weight to put on their findings, and even reading these studies is often a bit challenging and can be a bit of a slog to get through them. And so you need people who have years and years of training, who know how to parse that information, and then most importantly, apply it to the real world. It's also very important to remember that we look for consensus statements. If there is, 90% of a group of experts are saying this is what we should be doing, and then there's the lone voice on the other side saying no, that's wrong, the chance of this lone voice being correct is essentially zero. And so these lone voices need to be ignored, and we need to be looking at consensus statements from experts when we are guiding decisions on what food is best to feed our pets.
Okay, now I don't want to be quoting Dr. Judy very very often. She and I probably disagree on 99.9% of everything, but in one of her videos, she mentioned how, you could find a study out there that proves anything or that claims anything. And she is so right. And what Dr. M is saying here, as far as consensus, now we don't want groupthink where I believe that because that's what I was taught, we want 100 board certified nutritionists that are out there doing research and all to just be tunnel blind and say, well, I believe this. No, there's nothing about belief. It's all going to be based on science and clinical evidence and all that. But there is something to, like she said, if 90% of the veterinarians that we can trust are saying they think this is the way to go, this one lone study over here, you're really going to trust that. Why? Because it fits your belief system. It fits the current marketing you're hearing from certain doctors out there or certain groups or whatever, or because it's not from the big three. I can't trust the big three. So anything else that's said that goes against what they say, it must be real. It must be true. Okay. really great point what she's saying here is this is still science. Now, every now and then a lone researcher will come up with something new. I won't bore you with and I can only think of like two in my 34 years where somebody came up with something and now today it's totally different because of that. But that's what science is, right? I mean, if you look at any science out there, you're going to find lots of mistakes, lots of assumptions that turned out to be false, and now they're on to the next. This seems to be correct, this seems to be true. But that's what it comes down to. The big three get so demonized. Well, they're just brainwashing veterinarians. They're just, they're the ones teaching in vet schools and all. I've said this how many times. Who do you want teaching young veterinarians about nutrition? Like when Dr. M was just getting started, she knows she wants to have somebody that actually has the credentials and the experience and the knowledge. That's who I want to learn from, not from somebody that read one weird study done by somebody in New Zealand and all of a sudden we're going to just change everything because of that one study. And as she said, you really want people that understand how to read these studies. Now, I have looked at a few. I'm not a veterinarian, okay? So it's dry, it's drudgery to get through. Hills used to produce for civilians like me a summary of a study that the board certified nutritionists would write up a summary and show here's the stuff that was really done right. Here's the stuff that's a little flawed. This is why their results are either very accurate or we could question whether this is accurate based on the protocols, all this other stuff. That's why peer-reviewed studies that get published, they're reviewed by other credentialed people to say, hey, you're kind of a little wet here with this, or you're out in left field here. This really isn't something to study. And I've or not to study, but to believe as fact, as gospel. And I've said this before: if Royal Canin or Hills or Purina started just producing really shoddy research that the nutritionists out there would look at and say, okay, what did they do? They hire somebody to go along with this because this is shoddy. This just is not good science. It would be out there that their credibility would be shot, but that doesn't happen because they're all working together to try to get to the truth. And so I love what Dr. M said there. And please understand, all this is makes so much sense when you think about it. But if you're a pet parent on social media or listening to ads and commercials and stuff, you're not hearing any of this. You're hearing how, big kibble is nothing but corrupt and your veterinarian doesn't know anything and it's all just marketing hype and all this other stuff. So it's really great to hear Dr. M get into this stuff. And I like it because it's not just the shill from Hills, saying this stuff. I'm saying it because this is what I have learned and experienced from countless practicing veterinarians I've worked with over the years. And again, learning from board certified nutritionists at Hills. And even though I never met them or studied under them, but Dr. Laflamme from Purina, she was head of Purina's research for many years while I was a Hills rep. So I read a lot of her stuff, and I love the debates that she would have with the Hills nutritionists over stuff. I mean, there's so much going on that you as a pet parent don't know that Dr. M has touched on. And I've said it before, you can always tell somebody that calls himself a nutritionist but they're not. And the easiest way to tell is listen to them. Okay, don't just, oh, I'm not sure if he's real or not, so I'm not going to listen to him. Oh, no, listen to everybody, okay? But be equipped so you know how to discern truth from error, okay? A nutritionist will never, ever, ever tell you, look at the ingredient panel, look at the first five ingredients. Species appropriate. In other words, they'll talk about all kinds of things, all kinds of, I don't even know. It's really just marketing that came down from marketing departments of pet food companies. That's all it is. But that's what they'll talk about, especially ingredients, how they're sourced, and the which one is in front of this one, and which ingredients are after salt, and all this other stuff. Marketing. It's all marketing. Has absolutely nothing to do with nutrition. That's how you know you're not dealing with a nutritionist, not a trained nutritionist or a knowledgeable nutritionist. You're dealing with what's called an ingredientist. Nutritionists look at nutrition, the delivery of nutrients. The ingredientist, they look at ingredients, These are good ingredients. These are bad ingredients. I like these ingredients. I don't like these ingredients. I feel good when I see these ingredients. This ingredient is in front of this ingredient. This one is all the way down here. The first five ingredients. As soon as you start hearing that, you know you're dealing with an ingredientist. I have never yet met online, watching videos, going to websites, whatever. I have never met an ingredientist that will even delve slightly into the nutrients delivered. They don't do it. They can't do it. It's like two different languages to them. And if they combined it, I could tolerate that. If they said, well, I like these ingredients, but bottom line, look at the nutrients over here. Dr. Ray says this often, sure, if you want to look at the ingredients, once you know it's a good nutrient panel, profile, whatever, sure, then you want to look at the ingredients by all means. But as you're going to hear in the next video with Dr. M, the whole ingredient panel, all that. I've said it, but I want you to hear it from her because she says it even better than me. It's kind of frustrating how Dr. Ray, Dr. M, all these really smart people say stuff better than I do. But hopefully, I have my 2 cents. As somebody said, I my style's a little different, so I appreciate that. You can only be yourself, right? You can't pretend to be somebody else. So, but I steer you to these people because one, it confirms what I'm saying, that I'm not just a shill for Hills, as people say I am. But the more you hear it from other people, you'll know, hey, maybe there's something to this. So anyway, so there you go. Beware the ingredientist. That's coming up in the next video with Dr. M. But I hope this has been helpful. Beware of the person that claims to be a nutritionist, because chances are they're not. They're just trying to sell you something. Okay? You all take care, and let's all make it a great 2025.